Let us discuss in detail what do we mean by assets. An asset is defined as a resource controlled by the entity from which future economic benefits are expected to flow to the entity. These benefits are as a result of past events. The company uses these resources for carrying on its operating activity or for generating any revenues. Examples of assets include property, plant and equipment, furniture, current assets such as inventory and cash, and so on. Let us now take two examples to discuss what are assets, and we will also apply the definition of the term assets as we have just discussed. What is the most important asset of Microsoft?
Cash. They have a lot. I read in their balance sheet they were having cash, cash equivalents and short-term investments of $96.5 billion as of June 30th, 2015.
How about employees? They are an important asset for Microsoft. They are the ones who develop the software, in turn creating revenue for the company.
Trigger and clever. Very good observation. Microsoft has a lot of cash and Microsoft also has people. Now let us discuss whether we would find people and human resource in the balance sheet of companies.
We cannot have them in the balance sheet as they keep moving from balance sheet to balance sheet.
That's a good observation, Trigger, that we don't include human resource because they keep moving from company to company. Although human resource is an important asset, yet it is not found in the balance sheet. Have you ever thought about it? As in accounting, we record only transactions that are measurable in monetary terms. Even if human resource is measurable in monetary terms sometimes, it is very important that they are objectively measured. There are ways to measure human resource today and we can take them as asset in the balance sheet. But these are not objectively measurable. That means if different people use different methods, they will arrive at different numbers. And therefore, we don't record human resource in the balance sheet. Let us discuss the second aspect of asset. What is the most important asset of Coca-Cola?
Formulae.
Oh.
Brand name.
Oh. Very good. Both formula and brand are very important asset for Coca-Cola. Will we find brand name in the balance sheet? If yes, why? Or if no, why not? The answer to this question is very simple. We do not find brand name in the balance sheet, particularly if the brand is self-generated asset. Although brand name is one of the most important economic asset of a company, we do not enter it in the balance sheet for several reasons. A company's brand is built over several years. Can you and is there a particular event that says this event gave rise to this brand? Remember the definition? We said asset is something that we are able to identify based on a past event. So brand, can you identify a particular event which says this event gave rise to this brand? If not, we cannot record this as asset. More importantly, brands again and self-generated brand in particular are not objectively measurable and therefore we do not include in the balance sheet. But all these answers are my answers. Let us look at what the accounting standard and what the accounting rule IFRS state. IFRS simply state that internally generated intangible asset cannot be taken into the balance sheet. More about intangible asset later in the session. Assets are now broadly classified into two parts. One, non-current assets, and the other is the current assets. Non-current and current assets broadly comprises of two parts in the asset head. Let us now discuss a balance sheet of a company called Ginger Company. So far we have seen the definitions and so on. We will now take practically a company and see how and where these figures are represented. So please open the link in which the PDF is there of Ginger Company and let's go through it in greater detail. If you open the PDF, you can start with looking at the Ginger Company's balance sheet. The balance sheet is not a conventional balance sheet where you can find the assets and liabilities in a standing format, whereas we have here assets and liabilities next to each other. You'll also observe that there are 2 years figures. You have the current year 2016 and you have the previous year 2015 figures. And as you know already, balance sheet is always prepared on a date, and this is 31st December for Ginger Company. As we discussed, we have balance sheet into broadly classified into assets and liabilities and equity, and here I mark equity for you. And let us now go into greater detail of all these items. If you start with assets, we have seen the broad categorization of them into current and non-current assets. And you'll also remember the question that Clever asked as to whether asset comes on top or liability comes on top and so on, but it doesn't matter, like we said. In this balance sheet, we have current assets on the top and followed by non-current assets. As explained, in some countries, you normally start with non-current assets followed by current assets. Similarly, when you look at the liabilities and equity side, the format we have for Ginger Company starts with liabilities on top and followed by equity. Whereas in some countries, you may have equity on top followed by liabilities. Again, the order depends on the country and so on. And US, for example, has a particular format, IFRS another format, whereas different countries have different formats, which is more regulated by law.